Infinity War and Endgame skeptic. Now, presumably the consensus, because it keeps changing, it used to be that Infinity War was a pretty great story, an incredibly great film, and some people hang on to that, but now even those people concede it does have a lot of problems. However, the last ditch interpretation is, well, whatever problems Infinity War has, it's still the better film to Endgame. So let's get to the punchline. I think both are very, very bad and very, very poor. Though giving a precise grade is kind of tough. I'd say for Infinity War, it's kind of a 3.25 to 3.5, but I would give reluctantly Endgame 3.75 to 4. But PSA Stitch is going to try to argue that Endgame is worse and Infinity War is better, and I'm actually sympathetic to where he's going because he's actually showing me more errors in Endgame. Believe me, I'd give both of them negative scores, but I want to be fair-minded. I'm just going to make one editorial note. We're not going to bring Kang yet into this discussion because the Kang thing is a big, big, big problem. It technically does resolve a lot of issues, but it creates other issues as well. So we're going to hear him go on as to what is the central problem with Endgame and then react to it.
They also don't really face any obstacles. They just kind of walk into a highly secure military base and go pick it up. And Tony even gets to have a nice heart-to-heart talk with his old pa. The only real conflict in the entire middle part of the movie was Black Widow sacrificing herself. You know, you'd think when splitting up the heroes into teams, you wouldn't pair the two people who don't actually have superpowers together to get the stone from a place where they have no idea what's even waiting for them.
Thanos found the Soul Stone on Vormir.
What is Vormir?
A dominion of death. It's where Thanos murdered my sister.
Oh well, I guess it was just lucky since they're also the most disposable. LOL.
You just got pranked!
Everyone else just got their Infinity Stone pretty easy. Which is kinda weird, when this is supposed to be the dramatic conclusion to the Marvel movie's big overall story arc that has been going on for over a decade. This problem continues into the last third of the movie.
So this is a fairly long video, but he's very concise, and I'll give him a lot of points for at least consulting the comics, which a lot of people don't do, so at least he's familiar with the source material, and he makes a lot of telling criticisms. However, I disagree with him in terms of his basic criticism of, quote, Act 2. I think if the Avengers had faced a whole lot of challenges to get the Infinity Stones, that would have been even worse writing. Like, why in the world, when they have the element of surprise and they have all this superior knowledge, would they have all these problems? I understand what he's saying, that there's no dramatic stakes in terms of tensions or conflicts, but why would there be? Like, why would there suddenly be a whole bunch of challenges? That would be very, very contrived. So I disagree with his basic point, but he does make a lot of specific points I do agree with, namely the whole Vormir thing is really, really nonsensical. Because yes, they don't really know what they're encountering. For all they know, they're going to face a very, very powerful hostile enemy when they get to Vormir, but they just show up and they don't even have tons of weapons to help them out. And they send the two people with no superpowers. And then let's put aside, why are they sending two people? Why not just send one person? Why not send three people? And then and then of course it's because they're setting up ScarJo to be killed off. So it's like, wait a minute, this is all forced and contrived. And they still didn't answer the central question I had with Vormir, namely, who is the Guardian, right? They make it that the Red Skull is the Guardian, but that brings up an obvious problem. Who was the Guardian before the Red Skull? Who was guarding the place? Nobody? Well, then who gives you the challenge? Putting aside the challenge itself is completely nonsensical. Like, what if you just came there totally alone? Like, obviously you value yourself. So would you be forced to kill yourself to get the Soul Stone? That doesn't make sense either. This whole thing is pretty fucking stupid. And he actually forced me to think, yeah, this thing actually has even more problems. So far from being mean to Endgame, I'm actually being pretty generous. I'm trying to be as fair as possible with the score, but yeah, they just keep coming up with more problems the more you look at it. So it's like, Jesus Christ, this thing's horrific. Why people think this is, quote, worse than Infinity War doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Infinity War set this whole thing up. Because in the comics, there is no such thing. There is no gatekeeper. The Soul Stone is just a Soul Stone. It does have a dimension within itself, but you have no guardian. You have no challenge. You have none of this wish rule business where you have to give up your greatest wish or you don't get the soul stone. What does that have to do with souls? That's like emotions. Wouldn't that be the mind stone? So it doesn't even make any thematic sense. I can't say this actually makes Infinity War worse, because Infinity War already did something really stupid with the rule, so it's already fucked up to begin with, but Endgame could have at least tried to explain this or finesse this or refine this. Instead, they just kept adding their own problems. But being fair minded, this is all contrived, this is all constructed. But is the acting good? The answer is yes, even though the thing makes no sense whatsoever. I do like Jeremy Renner, I do like ScarJo, and I do believe what they did, even if it's beyond nutsoid. Like, okay, fine, she's going to sacrifice herself, but no, we're going to fight over who sacrifices who and fight over it. It's like, yeah, it's all pretty stupid and nonsensical, but was it well acted at least? Yes. And I have to say, compared to Infinity War, that was not well acted at all. So I don't believe Josh Brolin or Gamora are father or daughter. I don't believe that for a single second, and this whole thing was contrived. But at the very least, it did seem to be a good dramatic payoff, and so far they are keeping ScarJo dead, so at least they seem to be at least serious about that. But now with Kang, they may remove all that soon enough and bring back Black Widow. Not immediately, given recent issues, but I'm putting a lot of bets that they are going to bring back Black Widow somehow, so the whole thing was pointless. But for now, I am going to keep it to a 410, but PSA is bringing up a lot of issues, I think, that may force the grade downward, which is good for me because I don't care about this thing. But being fair minded, yeah, the logic is beyond stupid, but yeah, the character interactions were kind of heartfelt, and I'll give them that. And that's where we are with Endgame so far, but we're going to keep going with PSA Stitch. He has a lot of good criticisms of it. Thanks for listening.